Update. I, 28 male, want a divorce from my wife, 27 female, but everyone wants me to forgive her. Original post. My wife and I have been married for 3 years. First, let me say that as far as I know, my wife hasn't been struggling with any issues. And we've known each other since grade school. We literally know everything about each other and our families. About 2 months ago, I came home and found my wife and our 6-month-old daughter on a couch. My wife was asleep and my daughter was lying next to her. The moment I went over to greet them, I could smell that my daughter needed a diaper change. I didn't know how long it had been since her last change, but I didn't want to disturb my wife. She never naps during the day, so if she was asleep, I figured she must have had an especially hectic and exhausting day. I took our daughter to her room and placed her on the changing table to change her diaper. I was just getting started when, not even 2 minutes later, my wife came into the room. As I greeted her, she looked at me, then down at our daughter on the changing table, and suddenly flew into a rage. She started yelling and physically attacking me. I was completely stunned and didn't know what was happening. Instinctively, I leaned over our daughter to shield her from the blows. My wife was screaming and hitting me, shouting, "How could you?" over and over again, calling me a monster. I was in shock and had no idea what she was talking about. Everything had been perfectly normal that morning when I left for work. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, and there had been no signs of any problems. She then ran out of the room, and about 5 minutes later, 3 police officers showed up and placed me in handcuffs while my wife was in hysterics, claiming she had caught me sexually assaulting our daughter. I was completely speechless and couldn't comprehend what was happening. I asked her what she was talking about, but all she kept saying was that she saw me doing it. I was arrested and spent the night in custody. Fortunately, I was released the next day when the police reviewed the camera footage from our daughter's room. The footage clearly showed that I was only changing her diaper and that nothing inappropriate had happened. There was no evidence to support my wife's accusations, and it was evident that she had attacked me without any provocation. After being released, I felt numb. I couldn't believe that my wife would even think I was capable of doing something so horrific, let alone accuse me of it in front of the police. The moment those words came out of her mouth, it was like all the love I had for her just evaporated. Since then, I have felt nothing but an emptiness inside, a void where my feelings for her used to be. I had divorce papers served to her a week ago, and since then, my phone has been blowing up with calls and texts from her, apologizing repeatedly. But honestly, I don't care about her apologies. In over 374 messages, she hasn't given me a single explanation for what happened, or why she thought I would harm our daughter. All she says is sorry and that we should try marriage counseling or individual therapy. I don't want counseling. She can go if she wants, but I won't be involved. I am also pursuing full custody of our daughter. My lawyer has informed me that given the circumstances, including my wife's violent outburst which was caught on camera, the fact that I had to shield our daughter from her, and the false accusations she made against me, there is a good chance I will be awarded full custody. Her behavior raises serious concerns about her mental state, and I want to ensure my daughter is in a safe environment. Despite everything that happened, my family, her family, and even some of our friends are insisting that I'm taking things too far by seeking a divorce and aiming for full custody. They say I should give her another chance, but nobody can explain why she did what she did or offer any justification for her actions. Even my wife hasn't been able to provide a reason in all her messages. I feel worn down as the gravity of everything starts to hit me. I'm mentally and emotionally exhausted from dealing with the fallout, and I'm questioning whether I'm missing something. Why is everyone on her side? What could have driven her to make such a horrific accusation without any evidence? I'm at a loss and I don't know what to do anymore. If anyone has any advice or insights, I'd really appreciate it. What am I missing here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. You do not need to stay in this relationship no matter what caused her to snap. She physically attacked you, she called the police, and said you assaulted your own daughter. If you feel divorce is the best option and have mentally checked out, it is the best option. Honestly, at the moment, I'm thinking that something is wrong with me. I don't see myself ever getting past this. What about the next time I'm alone in a room with my daughter, playing with her or anything? Divorce is the only option for me, as I will not be in a relationship that I have to constantly look over my shoulder, especially if I did nothing wrong. If anything, you're missing something really significant. If you hadn't had cameras in the room to prove your innocence, you'd be in jail right now, awaiting trial for one of the most horrible crimes imaginable. Your wife would be divorcing you, and your life would be utterly destroyed. You'd likely never see your daughter again, you'd be unemployable, and you'd be shunned by both family and friends. I'm not usually one of those dump her Reddit folks, but in this situation, you don't have any other option in my opinion. There's no coming back from a false SA accusation. There's no apology she can offer that could ever make things right. Hire the best attorney you can afford and scorch the earth. If your family or friends don't agree, forget them. They don't matter. I guarantee that if there was no cameras, they would have been on your wife's side. If you feel you need to divorce, then you do what you need to do. It's a hard situation and will be difficult, especially with the legalities around it all. But staying is not going to do you any good. That is a given, but I can't understand if I'm missing something. Especially my friend that know the full story and still taking her side, saying divorce is a step too far. I feel like I'm missing something that I'm not seeing. Was I wrong to change my daughter's diaper? Should I have woken up my wife to do it? Should I just have left her like that? Now for the update a month later. Quick update as life has been hectic lately, especially with everything going on. The divorce is currently in progress. My daughter is in my custody and my lawyer has assured me that it's almost certain I will be granted full custody. Given the circumstances, my soon-to-be ex-wife will likely only be allowed supervised visits with our daughter. As for what actually happened, it turns out that my wife had a dream, and when she walked into the room and saw me changing our daughter, she somehow confused the dream with reality. In her mind, what she had dreamed seemed real, and that's what led her to accuse me of something so horrific. It's difficult to wrap my head around how a dream could cause such a drastic reaction, but that's the explanation I've been given. I'm still processing everything and it's been a whirlwind of emotions. Between dealing with legal matters, caring for my daughter, and trying to understand how things got to this point, life has been anything but calm. I'll provide a full update when I have more time, but for now, that's where things stand. I am sorry your family is ruined, but you are doing the right thing. You need to protect yourself and your daughter. I don't think mentally healthy people act like that because of the dream they had. She was awake long enough to call the cops and to give them statements. If it was hallucinations, psychosis, delusions, she is most likely paranoid schizophrenic. What if her next dream will be that her house is contaminated with some lethal poison and she has to burn it? Or you or your baby are demons and she has to unalive you? You are not in prison and not on a certain list by pure luck. Your life is not ruined by pure luck. Next time, you might not be so lucky. She needs professional mental health evaluation and lifelong mental health help. Getting yourself and your baby out of that situation was absolutely the right decision and should have been your top priority. You did a correct thing. That said, I think a lot of people on the forum are dismissing your soon-to-be ex-wife's reaction as simply something unreasonable and stupid that she had full control over. I'd like to point out that this may not necessarily be the case. For example, if she wasn't getting enough sleep or wasn't sleeping for long enough periods, example getting up every 3 hours all night to tend to the baby without napping during the day, sleep deprivation could be a factor. Sleep deprivation is no joke. It can cause hallucinations, paranoia, delusions, disorientation, irritability, violent outbursts, and severely impair one's judgment, among other things. And that's assuming there weren't any other underlying issues, such as postpartum depression, PPD, or pre-existing trauma. Personally, I'd want to understand whether her behavior was truly within her control, or if there was contributing factors before proceeding directly to divorce. Next story. My male 33 wife, female 34, grieves over a child I never told or agreed would have. How to move forward. My wife, female 34, and I, male 33, have been married for 7 years and together for 10. Back then, we didn't discuss children in detail. except to say that she wanted one or two at some point. And I agreed. One, maybe two at most. 4 years ago, we had our first child male 4, and 2 years later, our second child male 2 was born. After the first, I already felt it was challenging enough. But I agreed to have a second child, reasoning that having a sibling would be good for our first. For me, that was it. I didn't want any more children. And I thought my wife felt the same. We didn't really discuss it further after that. Now that our second has turned 2, my wife wants to try for a third child. She says she wants a big family now. I'm not on board with this. I never wanted that. I told her how I felt and stood my ground. There's been a lot of crying on both sides, and we've each given our arguments, but we're both convinced we're right. There's no way to compromise on this issue. You can't have half a baby. My wife has been having periods of intense sadness, sometimes crying for entire days. On those days, she can't even look at me. Other times, it seems like she has come to terms with it and life goes on. We have 2 small children to take care of, and life is busy. On those days, I think we'll be okay. But then another wave of grief hits, and it feels like she's mourning the idea of a baby I never agreed to have. I'm not sure how I can help the situation further because to me, there are only 2 possible outcomes. She comes to terms with having 2 children, or we end up breaking up because she wants to find someone else who is willing to have a third child with her. Is there a third option that I'm not seeing? I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and I've even started telling people who visit not to bring up innocent questions like, when's the third one coming, in order to avoid triggering another emotional episode. If anyone has experienced a similar situation and found a way through it, I'd appreciate hearing your stories. Any small details or advice that could help her or me would be welcome. Have you asked your wife why she wants another baby? Is it just about the idea of having a large family? Or is it that she wants a girl? I think that's worth unpacking. Not that it will solve your issue, of course, but it might help you understand what she feels is missing from your family at present that another baby might add. She says now it's the big family. Although yes, she did hope for our second to be a girl. Not sure if that still plays, and she's ashamed to say it. As you mentioned, it doesn't solve or change the situation though, so I stopped pondering about that. Marriage counseling and possibly individual therapy for your wife, not because there's anything wrong with her. It's absolutely reasonable for her to discover along the road of having 2 children that she wants 3, and it's absolutely reasonable for you who only wanted 1 and possibly 2 to realize that you don't want any more children. But she is grieving a genuine emotional loss, and therapy can help her work through that. But marriage counseling is also necessary to help the 2 of you work through the realization that 2 people can love each other and not want exactly the same out of life, and more importantly, how to move forward. Unavailable where we live, unfortunately. I've proposed to find it online through video calls, but that hasn't been taken up yet. It feels like true grievance, and I give her all the space she needs when it happens. She won't look at me during these periods, so I think therapy in person, even if it would exist here, would be difficult. She needs therapy, and badly. Spending whole days crying and fostering this bitterness towards you isn't good for her or the family she already has. Honestly, I wonder how much of that is genuine grief, and how much is demonstrative crying a la, see what you are doing to me, you monster, to manipulate him. If it's actually genuine, then she's probably depressive AF and needs help. Anyway, it's definitely not normal to wallow your grief for a potential child this much when you have 2 actual kids to take care of. I wonder what it's doing to them to see mommy cry for days on end. At this point, they're mostly ignoring it, and she goes upstairs to cry in the main bedroom. Children are not allowed to go up the stairs. I have also brought up the point to try and be happy and care for our 2 current children, but it gets ignored and said there is a room for a third. Last story. My 34 female husband, 30 male, said I wasn't attractive enough to cheat on him. My husband is gorgeous. Everybody says so. I consider myself pretty but unremarkable. My features aren't exactly supermodel material, but I do the best I can with what I've got. I have nice skin thanks to skincare, a decent body thanks to the gym, and so on. But compared to my husband, I might as well be a troll. Even my own mom thought my husband might be gay or hiding something sketchy because of how much more attractive he is than I am. It's the first thing people seem to notice when we're out. I've had women flirt with him right in front of me, and 2 girls I know even try to get with him behind my back. Sometimes I even question why he's with me. I'm insecure about it, but my husband has always reassured me, saying he loves me and thinks I'm beautiful, and that I shouldn't listen to other people. Yesterday changed everything. I bumped into an old boyfriend from college. We had parted on good terms, and it turns out he's doing well in his career. I'm considering changing jobs, and I'm pretty decent at what I do, so we exchanged LinkedIn information. There wasn't anything inappropriate about our conversation, and I wouldn't have had any problem if my husband had been there to hear it. As soon as I got home, my husband started an argument. He said he had read through my LinkedIn messages and was convinced that my ex was flirting with me. I told him he wasn't. My husband then started making fun of my ex's looks, saying some of the cruelest things I've ever heard him say. I told him to stop and said we could talk when he wasn't acting like this. He responded, "If that guy becomes your coworker and you cheat on me," then he scoffed and said, "You're not attractive enough to cheat on me, not enough to keep me." I was speechless. He then slammed the door to our bedroom and locked me out for the night. I ended up sleeping on the sofa. At some point, I vaguely remember him waking me up, and when I woke up, I was tucked into bed. Today, he was incredibly sweet and kissed me before leaving for work. I can still remember everything that happened, but it feels like an out-of-body experience. I have never heard him say anything like that before, ever. I feel so upset and uncomfortable. What do I even say to him? How do I just ask him what he was thinking? What possessed him to say the things he did? And if he really meant them? His mask slipped. Note how he realized it, went and got her off the couch during the night, and was all back to super sweet, kissy husband the next morning. You can only keep the facade up for so long. Agree. Always pay attention to what people say in the heat of the moment. It's what they really think and how they really feel. He felt bad for what he said, so he brought her to bed. But it doesn't change what he said. He showed his true colors when he said those things to her. I think you know deep down the answer to your question, and nothing he could say would explain away the truth. Regardless of what he has said before, he has deep-rooted feelings that he is more attractive and better than you. I could never ever be vulnerable and feel loved if my husband said that to me. He should feel like you are a catch and the best thing that ever happened to him. There are some things that just can't be unsaid. That's what I'm afraid of, because if he said what he meant, does that mean he looks down on me? That he thinks he's attractive enough to cheat on me? I feel very numb. I know I'm not as attractive as my husband, but I also have good qualities. No one is suffering by being my husband.